We're doing Breakaway. It's a good Easter song. Starting all over.
There's more to all of us than meets the eye. If we were to put down a resume, every one of us were to create a resume, and we look at this one sheet of paper and we say, this is me. Is it? Well, yeah, kind of. It's the highlights that we wanted to try to bring forward. Now, if we were each to write a book about our lives, and this is the book of my life, and this is the book of your life, we would know a whole bunch more than we would know just from this piece of paper, just from this resume. Now, if we were to have everybody else in the room write a book for us, we all chipped in and we all wrote a book just on Papa. But Papa couldn't write it. We all wrote it. Or Deb, or Judy, or any of us. And we all wrote a book about one of us. Our experiences, the things we remember, the things we did, the things we heard, that also would provide a different way of knowing us, right? So if we had our resume, or if we had our autobiography, or if we had somebody else write a story on us, there would all be different ways of getting to know us. With Jesus, we can look at interesting little videos like we just saw at Spirit Science that show more of an evolution of consciousness, an evolution of how things came about, or we can look at things from a biblical perspective. Now, from a biblical perspective, the Old Testament, right, the Torah was written over 1,536 years. So every 100 years or so, there was more books and more books and more books added to it. It was constantly growing. Now, and then came Jesus. Boom. Okay, changed everything. Changed everything. Now, about 30 to 40 years, depending on the scholars you believe, about 30 to 40 years after his death, a bunch of his buddies got together and said, we need to write this stuff down. Now imagine if we all wrote your story 40 years from now. This is what I think I remember Judy saying, this is what Judy taught me, this is what Judy was all about, and we all get together and we all write our books. And then 300 years after that, at the Conference of Nicaea, one guy says, I'm going to decide, now we're going to use Mike's book on Judy, because that's a good one, we like that. We're going to use Papa's book on Judy, but we're not going to use Steve's book on Judy, we don't like that one, we'll push that one off to the side. But we'll use Mark's book on Judy, so that's a good one too. And probably we'll use Debbie's book on Judy, and hey look, there's the New Testament. And that's how it came about. This is chronologically and scientifically proven, it's not a belief system. Now, none of this takes away from who Christ is and what Christ is to us. We can get to know Christ through books such as the Bible. Yesterday, I downloaded and read the entire Jeffersonian Bible. I don't know if anybody knows of a guy named Thomas Jefferson, fairly well known around here. But Jefferson thought, I really want to know Christ. And there's a lot to this Bible. You've got two religions. You've got the Jewish religion in the Old Testament. You've got the Christian religion in the New Testament. And I really love Jesus, and I really want to know just Jesus. So what he did is he took his Bible, and anything that said, and Jesus said, quote, he cut out. And that was it. And then he arranged all of the things Jesus said, quote, in a chronological order. And so the Jeffersonian Bible is really a small Bible that he had printed to give to the Native Americans who were trying to understand, he was trying to help them to understand Christ, and rather than giving them this big thick book called the Bible, having them learn the Jewish religion and then saying, but we're not Jewish, so forget the Old Testament, it's really the New Testament we're going to focus on is the second half of the book. Instead, he just handed them a little book, the Jeffersonian Bible, and said, these are the things that Christ said. And he got to know Christ in a different way by taking just the excerpts of just what Christ said and putting that into a book. Putting that into the Jeffersonian Bible. All of these things are different ways that our brains can get to know Christ in a different way. But Christ and God is not just a thinking thing. It's a spirit thing, it's a consciousness thing, it's a feeling thing. Today on Easter, we're reminded that through the resurrection that this planet, this physical dimension of Earth, had no dominion over God and therefore no dominion over Christ. When you actually read the resurrection story, after the crucifixion, when he was in the cave, in the burial tomb with the big stone rolled in front, the actual words as you read them was, on the third day Jesus rose and Jesus exited the tomb. 2 paragraphs later, it says, and the angel came down and moved the capstone, moved the tombstone, so that Jesus' followers could see that he wasn't in there. Now that's important because the angel didn't have to move the tombstone for Jesus to come out. Instead, Jesus walked right through solid rock. Tons and tons of solid rock, walked right out through it after conquering death by saying, this world has no dominion over me. And at the same time, telling all of us, there is nothing that I can do that you can't do. We are all God's kids. And therefore, there is nothing of this world that has dominion over any of us, as long as we're connected with the God that's inside, the God that's outside, the Creator that's all that is, which the New Testament and almost every other religious book on the planet defines as love. And so as we get in touch with that love, as we get in touch with that peace of God inside of ourselves, and we get in touch with that peace of God that is in every one of us, that is in everything, we begin to view each other very differently. The word namaste means the peace of God inside of me recognizes and appreciates the peace of God inside of you. Now, if we all saw each other as the spark of God inside us first, and as human beings second, how differently would we treat each other? How differently would we treat each other if everything that we came in contact with, we saw the peace of God inside of it first? And remembered that this world has no dominion over us that we don't give it. Because God says so. Because Jesus showed us that it didn't have to. So, when we look at today, when we look at the message of Easter and of Christ and of the resurrection, it's one of hope and it's one of new beginnings. A very different person came out of that cave than went into that cave. A very different person exists inside of each one of us. As the song says, help me remember who I am. Help me to trust in the master plan. When I think that I can't, remind me I can. Help me remember who I am. And this is what we're doing, is to remember who we are as a way of remembering who God is, as a way of remembering who Jesus is. And again, take this back to the beginning of, if my dad were to write a resume and I were to read his resume, I would get to know him in a certain way. If he were to write a book and I read his book, I would get to know him in a different way. And if all of you wrote a book about him and I read it, I would get to know him in a different way. But the way I can get to know him the best is to say, hey, Dad, let's hang out. Let's go spend some time together. I want you into my life. I want you into my world. Will you come into my house? Hey, I've got a big decision to make. What's your guidance? Let me consult you with the things that are really important to me. Can I have your blessing on my marriage? Can I have your blessing on my friendships? Can I have your blessing on these things that I feel like you're asking me to do this or to do that may be outside my comfort zone, but I feel like you're telling me to do this. Can I do it, and will you help? You bet, son. I have been telling you to do this, and I do want to help you to get it done. Well, great. If I'm not in this alone, if you're telling me to do it and you're going to help me do it, and I can have absolute faith that you're going to help me do this thing, then I can do it much more confidently. And so the same thing is true with our relationship with Christ, that we can get to know him through the papers, we can get to know him through study and research, we can get to know him through goofy videos with cartoon guys named Patches. We can get to know, and through a myriad of different books and writings and channelings and prayer and meditation and our own experience in our own heart space. But the way that we get to know Christ the best, and also God the best, is recognizing that they're already inside each one of us. That they are absolute love. And involving them in our lives. And expanding that relationship by the amount of time we spend and the depth of time that we spend there. In closing with the Easter story is the reminder that death has no dominion over our souls, that our bodies are temporary, but our souls are eternal. And so this isn't it. This life thing that we're living, this physical body that I have, isn't it. And so all of the people that we have loved throughout our entire life who have already crossed are already without this veil of separation between the real us, our soul, and divinity, and heaven, and all that is. They've simply shed this little veil. They've pulled the curtain back and connected with all of it. And we too will do that same thing, because death has no dominion over who we are as spiritual beings. And today is the reminder that Christ said, death has no dominion. Heaven is inside of all of us because God is inside of all of us, and we don't need to go through anyone or anything in order to have that deep personal connection and relationship with that which is already inside of us, that which seeks to love us and seeks us to love in return. And as we do these things, we will find many of the things we've struggled with that seem like mountains become molehills, and we'll see the courage to become the us that we felt with your true call in you That when you hear that voice, no one else can hear, and it's asking you to take this step, and it's asking you to move in this direction. Not just of physical things, but of spiritual things. To raise that level of consciousness, to raise that level of vibration, to come into the true comfort and understanding and love of who you are, because of whose you are, because of who you're connected with, because who you're a part of, and who is a part of you, which is all of us, which is all of God's kids, all over this planet, and every vibrational frequency, everything that's in all of creation is inside of us, and we're inside of it. This is the promise, this is the love, this is the Christ, this is Easter. Thank you.
This morning, close your eyes, comfortable in your chairs, and go within, finding that spark of God inside of you. Where does it resonate? What does it look like? What does it feel like? That spark of God that's inside of you. Go in and find it. Identify how it looks, feels, smells, maybe even tastes. And when you see its glow, its resonance, allow it to grow and expand. Let it shine. So you're able to connect with it even better, and the world can see it. As we think of this Easter, notice the cross that Christ carried. And as you reflect in your own life, notice the crosses that you carry. The burdens that are maybe on your shoulders throughout this life that you chose to carry out. And those that you're ready to bury, let them be buried. Take them off and bury them. Let them go. One by one, feeling the freedom that comes. And just like Christ in his life, who was baptized, feeling that cleansing come over you. As you're washed clean and renewed. Feeling all those pieces of who you really are that were lost along the way being gathered up, brought back together, made whole, adding to that spark of God that's inside of you, that spark that's you. From all corners of the world or throughout lifetimes, feel those energies coming back, reuniting, making you whole again. Seeing yourself rise up out of the dust, walking through that stone along your life's journey. Seeing yourself ascend as if getting a glimpse of Christ's reality. And those that would like to know Christ and Jesus in a new and better way, feel his energy come in. Those introductions made. What would you say to each other? What kind of conversation would you have? Do you want to increase that relationship? so. Feel that connection getting stronger. As if you had a master teacher by your side each day, each moment, whenever you chose to call them in. Knowing that the guidance is there, the direction, and the how-to for someone who's walked that path before. Feel the strength that comes, the confidence of letting the past go and moving along your journey with this energy of Christ and light, knowledge, and understanding. So this Easter, as you come back, feeling that reigniting, that renewal of a new beginning, that energy within, and the support, the spiritual support that you have surrounding you with Christ's energy. Getting back in touch with that peace of Christ, that peace of God inside of you. Reconnecting it, and with each breath, feel as it connects with every soul, every cell, every muscle of your being. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. This week, as I meditated on Easter and Christ's energy, I've been reminded of several little lessons along the way. As you get in the shower each morning, to feel each day being renewed, that your energy is being cleaned off, that your not just your physical being, but your soul, your energy, to start the day. But as I sat one morning, feeling almost like that baptism in the shower coming over me, I was sitting out in meditation, and I felt Christ's energy, and it felt really special to me, because the message that came through was every time that you're sad, every time that you feel guilt, every time that you feel these negative emotions, you're mocking my name. You're stepping on what I did for you, because I've already walked it. I've already gone through that pain. I've already experienced it. But every time that you bring it back up, it's as if what I did didn't matter. And it touched me in a way and gave me a perspective I'd never seen before. And it really helped me to see that the more that I can show the joy, the freedom, the spirit of just letting it shine through, the more I honor him and the path that he walked and taught to each of us, to let our burdens go, to put down our own crosses, and to ascend, to be connected with those masters of life, that spiritual energy that directs us each moment.